Up next, he's the winner of the hotly contested 4th Congressional District Democratic primary, who in a crowded field of 9 candidates vying to replace Joe Kennedy, ultimately beat out the second-place finisher by just over 2,000 votes. I'm joined now by Newton City Councilor Jake Auchincloss. Jake, congratulations, and thanks so much for joining me. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Jim. Pleasure to be on.
So, Jake, last night Adam Riley was on with me, and we were talking about ranked choice voting, and we were talking about you, and I described you as a moderate. And I was interrupted by Adam, who said you describe yourself as a pragmatic progressive. What is a pragmatic progressive?
I think a pragmatic progressive is the type of elected official that I've been for 5 years in Newton, as someone who has built coalitions for real change on the environment, on housing, on transportation, progressive, bold positions, but is able to do so with collaboration and is able to move the ball down the field to affect change, recognizing that in American politics, sometimes you've got to compromise, and that's okay.
So can you compromise with the Kevin McCarthys and the Mitch McConnells if you're lucky enough to make it to Washington?
The period that we're in right now as a country under Donald Trump and his enablers is one of existential crisis. Donald Trump is manifestly unfit to be president of the United States, and his congressional enablers are equally as part of the problem and equally as culpable as he is. They must be defeated on November 3rd. That is a fight the Democrats simply have to win.
Okay, so rather than comparing you to the McCarthys and the McConnells, your hope to succeed Joe Kennedy. He was for Medicare for all. You are not. He was for tight restrictions on qualified immunity. You are not. He was for free community college. My understanding is you are not. So it is fair to say that you are asking the people in the 4th to elect a different breed of Democrat, no?
I think Congressman Kennedy has been an excellent representative for the Massachusetts 4th, and I think we share the same values. I believe health care is a human right. I grew up in a health care family, and the principles I imbibed were around the kitchen table. Being sick is the scariest experience of someone's life, and you should not have to worry about going bankrupt because of it at the same time. We can get to health care as a human right as a country without having to revoke insurance from the 85% of Americans who have it, and most of whom will like it. We can use a public option to get to a place where every American has the affordable, accessible health care that they deserve.
Can we go back to this ranked choice voting? You support ranked choice voting big time, do you not?
I was an early and strong supporter of ranked choice voting, and I'm proud to have the support of the chair of the Voter Choice MA committee.
So here's what I said last night, and feel free to refute it, that if you added up the votes of the people you defeated, there were probably 3/4 of the voters in your district who supported someone who was more progressive than you. You're described as a moderate Democrat in places like the New York Times. It's not just me. If there were ranked choice voting when you ran, would you have won the race last week?
I think there's a lot of hypotheticals in there, Jim, and I'll just call out right now this idea that I'm a moderate Democrat. That was a narrative that was useful for some of my opponents in the race, which I get, it's politics. But it's interesting that if you look at the people who actually worked with me on the Newton City Council, the most progressive members of the Newton City Council backed me because they saw the change I could make. So we've really got to reset this idea of me as some type of moderate or centrist Democrat. I'm a pragmatic progressive who is going to get change done on big issues like the environment and a transition to a clean energy economy. Now, on your question about ranked choice voting, I do want to address that.
Please.
I think it is very tempting, I get it, to pose hypotheticals and try to get inside voters' heads about who would have voted where, when, what, how. I'll say this. I think ranked choice voting is a good policy. I've been a strong supporter of it. I am very proud that I won 25 out of 34 towns in this district and that I finished in the top 3 in every single town in the district, which is something that no other candidate was able to do. I have full district support.
So forget hypotheticals for a second. You have proudly talked about how you voted for Charlie Baker over Martha Coakley. How would you describe someone who made that choice, their political bent?
Somebody who saw in Charlie Baker a leader who is driven by facts and consults science. And we've seen those qualities in him as he's managed the COVID crisis, I think, quite competently. And I'm going to be a partner to him as we get relief and recovery from this pandemic.
You know, Jake, I started tonight's show with someone for whom I have colossal respect, Khizr Khan, who I'm sure you know, the Gold Star father of a man who was killed in Iraq in 2004. I'm sure people know that you were a Marine captain. I served in Afghanistan, I believe Panama as well. Let me ask you the same question at the end of the show that I asked him at the beginning. When you read President Trump's comments about men and women who served, who were wounded, who died, who were losers and suckers, he denies it, but most people believe it to be true. What was your reaction, Jake?
Chagrined and embarrassed for this country that we have as commander-in-chief someone who is so manifestly unfit for his office and who degrades the people who serve under him in uniform. I honestly think his comments stand by themselves as just the latest addition in a string of statements and actions that demonstrate to the American people that we have one of the worst human beings in the world as our commander-in-chief. And it is time for us to unite behind the Biden-Harris ticket and make sure he is unseated.
Jake Auchincloss, one more time, congratulations on winning the nomination, and I really appreciate your time. Thanks.
Thank you, Jim.